Hi, I'm Kathi Weeder. Thank you for joining me for my capstone presentation, Pursuing Academic English Preparedness at the University of Iceland, a review of the literature. Welcome. Do these student quotes look familiar? I thought about quitting in the first semester. There was so much reading in English that I struggled with. I read so slowly. We had oral exams and read novels in high school. We didn't work with academic texts. I started the paper without really knowing the thesis statement. The problem with that was that the main idea of the paper was always changing. I truly had no idea what a thesis meant, and I wasn't sure how to incorporate a working thesis into the paper that I was writing. Those of us involved in teaching first-year English at community colleges and universities in California and the US are well aware. Whether international multilingual students, Generation 1.5 students, or native English-speaking students, many of them come to us unable to produce college-level work. Surprised? These quotes are not from first-year university students in the US, but written by students at the University of Iceland. Icelandic students also struggle with the demands of academic English, despite the fact that Iceland, along with Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and Norway, have the highest English proficiency in the world. Iceland is also the third most literate nation in the world. The other four Nordic countries all occupy the top 5 spots. By the way, the US comes in 7th and the UK 17th. The official perception of Nordic citizens' English proficiency actually works against Nordic youth. In a nutshell, the challenge is students lack the necessary preparation to use academic English effectively, and this perception creates bias towards a student problem rather than the educational system. I'm really interested in this challenge because it speaks to the universal conundrum. How do we as composition and TESOL instructors best support multilingual and L1 English students who require a process of intense academic English support? That's why what's happening on the ground with the English for Academic Purposes, or EAP program at the University of Iceland, is really interesting to me. For my capstone, I examined the research on the 2013 pilot of the first genre-focused EAP writing course, the stated aim of which was to bring students quickly to a level of academic English that allows them to access curriculum where English as native language norms are expected. These are my research questions. What do genre-based academic English reading and writing courses look like at the University of Iceland? How do Icelandic students view their abilities and challenges with academic English learning? And what benefits have these students experienced in the implementation of these courses? As a result of my research, I became even more interested from a sociocultural perspective in the larger landscape in which this program is situated. And because Iceland may be rather new to you, I'm going to spend half this presentation talking to you about what it looks like in terms of the higher education initiatives in Europe and how language policies and sociolinguistic factors influence EAP language pedagogy in Iceland. As a sociocultural theorist, I care about macro and micro forces. That's why I looked at language policies in Iceland and multiple academic articles concerning the 7-year research project conducted over 2007 to 2013, documenting Icelanders' exposure to English across the lifespan. I'm also a composition teacher and tutor influenced by genre theory. So when I discovered a genre-focused approach is built into the EAP mission, I was super excited to see what are the expectations informing the program goals. I'll be bringing up genre theory again when I analyze some of the pilot program findings. Internationalization in higher education in Iceland is just a microcosm of internationalization more broadly. It's all part of the spider web. Without going into too much detail, the Bologna Declaration in 1999 set a process in motion adopted by 48 countries in the EU. The goal was to create a European higher education area by 2010 to promote a European system of higher education that, facilitates student and staff mobility, and makes higher education in Europe more inclusive, accessible, attractive, and competitive worldwide. Interestingly enough, there's no explicit policy on what that language of mobility should be, but as English was already the most widely taught and used language on the continent, the Bologna process opened the door for English to be the de facto lingua franca of academia. English as a medium of instruction, or EMI, came next. EMI was first defined by applied linguist Julie Dearden in 2015 as the use of the English language to teach academic subjects other than English itself in countries or jurisdictions in which the majority of the population's first language is not English. EMI in the disciplines is a controversial issue in European higher education, but it has become, as University of Oxford professor Ernesto Maccaro claims, an unstoppable train that's already left the station. Along with the rise of EMI, something I didn't know until I began my research is that the majority of university textbooks and academic research globally is published in English. Today, students at the University of Iceland, like many students globally, will read academic English texts in their disciplines, even when not enrolled in EMI courses. Iceland's attitude to English being used as a medium of instruction is a mixture of hostility and practicality. Amanda Hilmerson Dunn is a teaching fellow of EAP, and I thought her quote really summed up the dilemma, not just in Iceland, but also in universities in other countries where English is not a first language. The University of Iceland language policy can be easily found on its website. Officially, Icelandic is the main language at the university. The same holds true on a government level. However, point number 8 of the 18 points in the 2016 policy acknowledges the need for internationalization, stating, "It shall be made easier for teaching staff and students who are native speakers of Icelandic to take part in university operations in English. Courses in academic English for teaching staff and students shall be enhanced. Special English support services shall be introduced for students to help them in their studies and with writing essays in English." While the tension of maintaining the primacy of a native language amidst the growing influence of English is not unique to Iceland, there are many things about Icelandic language I found that are unique. One of the most interesting findings is this: to speak Icelandic is to be Icelandic. In the words of Ari Paul Christensen, head of the language planning department, Arne Magnusson Institute of Icelandic Studies, Iceland's lexical purism is an internationally known feature of Icelandicness, not unlike wearing woolen sweaters or eating rotten shark. Lexical purism is the policy of discouraging new loanwords from entering the language by creating new words from Old Icelandic and Old Norse roots. My research has made it clear to me that from the first Norse settler in Iceland around 1870 through today, the Icelandic language continues to be a huge part of national identity. The total population of Iceland in 2021 is just little over 365,000, which may be why Icelanders at all levels of society take pride in their Icelandic purism. Yet at the same time, they pragmatically embrace English in higher education, research, everyday life, and the workforce. Without going too far afield, I want to briefly discuss this Icelandic pragmatism. What sparked my interest in examining the university's approach to first-year academic English pedagogy was prior knowledge of what my Icelandic colleague and friend Hrafnilda Gunnarsdóttir terms the pragmatic mentality of Icelanders for instigating societal change. Situatedness is very illuminating. For one, Iceland went from a complete silence towards lesbian and gays to full legal rights in about 35 years, 1975 to 2010. Women's rights paved the way for such cultural shifts. The Red Stockings of the 1970s and the Icelandic Women's Alliance of the early 80s raised Icelandic women's participation in politics from a meager 12% to 43% by the end of the 80s, with a much higher rate ever since. Who is the world's first female to be democratically elected president? Vigdís Finnbogadóttir, 4th president of Iceland from 1980 to 1996. And the current prime minister, Katrin Jakobsdottir, the second female prime minister after Johanna Sigurðardóttir, elected in 2009, and again, the world's first openly LGBT head of government. Sociocultural factors such as these convinced me that efforts aiming to solve the challenge of academic English proficiency in Iceland may have implications for a larger conversation. Before the COVID lockdown, I thought I'd be able to go to Iceland and access materials such as the curriculum, textbook, or actual lesson plans on the EAP pilot program. Early on, I also discovered that the lead scholar on the Icelandic research product and the university EAP program is on sabbatical until July 2021. So I've been sleuthing for over 8 months, and I have to say it's extremely hard tracking down the information I needed to be comprehensive and accurate. And I still don't have the full picture, but here's what I did. I started with the book, Language Development Across the Lifespan, The Impact of English on Education and Work in Iceland, written by University of Iceland linguistics and education professors, Drs. Birna Ansbjørnsdóttir and Hafdís Ingvarsdóttir. I relied heavily on the published writings of these scholars and initially used their references to point me towards published studies on the limitations of EFL pedagogies to prepare EMI students. It was Dearden 2015, Demova et al. 2015, Anbjørnsdóttir and Prince 2014, Arnbjørnsdóttir and Ingvarsdóttir 2017, 2010, Pecorati et al. 2011, as well as a range of L1 pedagogical traditions which provided the theoretical framework for the course. Kern 2000, Swales 2004, Gardner and Nisse 2013, Highland, lots of Highland 2017, Doolan 2017. And studying higher education in the EU, the rise of EMI, and the sociolinguistic context and language policies of Iceland, I found this kind of research plentiful and fascinating. However, there's not a lot of literature yet on the EAP pilot program. It turned out that what's published is very nascent in terms of evaluative quality. They're evaluating while they're doing it. So other than published survey data assessing the first semester pilot, we don't know how the literature is going to grow. For example, while I have the textbook's table of contents, the book itself won't be published until late 2021, and my request to the publisher for preview copy went unanswered. I'm excited to review it later in the year when it comes out, and hopefully after Iceland and graduation, I'll continue my research. While I wasn't able to access the data I felt I needed to accurately describe the EAP genre approach, I can tell you what I do know based on what I learned from numerous papers published by the course developers and textbook co-authors, Drs. Birna Ansbjørnsdóttir and Patricia Prince. They write that because university programs may not have the resources to provide genre-specific writing instruction across multiple disciplines, their pedagogical approach to the art and architecture of academic writing concentrates on a few crucial features to provide what they call an important gateway and foundation for students to deepen and expand their writing skills in preparation for the disciplines. The textbook table of contents I have, I'm postulating that genre awareness is promoted in Chapter 1, the art of academic writing, and in Chapter 2, the architecture of academic writing, after which the course most likely provides a framework for teaching a genre approach to thesis-driven writing. The goal, they write, is to unlock the code of the academic genre by making the key structural features and stylistic elements of academic writing transparent. So I found the emphasis to be thesis-driven writing, and then this limited genre focus on transferable features in the expository writings listed here, and then a case study, and then research and the research paper writing at the end of the semester. There was a lot of focus on development of the authorial voice, and then mastering single elements and chunks that would be synthesized into these larger genre-specific writing tasks. The learning outcomes I discovered were that students will be able to demonstrate increased writer autonomy, self-efficacy, and writing proficiency for studying the details, more of These are in my paper. And finally, I'd like to say before getting into this slide that I am for a sociocultural framework for the pedagogy based on statements such as this. The textbook mediates learning through predictable sequences of scaffolded learning activities, beginning with an explanation of purpose and rationale, followed by modeling, guided learning practice, and culminating in a gradual release of responsibility and the learner's independent production of the targeted task. To me, that is straight out of sociocultural theory with Vygotsky. So to what extent did the survey data give me insights into the course's genre approach? I don't know the answer because it's not clear yet. However, there are survey findings that stand out to me in terms of the students' self-reported challenges with academic English learning and the benefits they experienced in this course. You can see from this slide that there were pre and post surveys data taken and interviews with 500 students and teachers. At the start of the course, the results of the survey showed that 35% struggled greatly with academic English, 50% claim course workload increases, and 85% report problems with 2 languages. But they don't really go into specifics on what those problems are in the data. At the end of the course, some of the survey responses showed significantly more confident as writers. They wrote more drafts of papers. There's better understanding of composing different elements of academic essays, and over 95% would recommend the course or test book. The findings on the right assess changes in students' self-perceived abilities in the 3 themes of the textbook and the course: promoting writer autonomy, self-efficacy, and thesis writing ability. So at the end of the course, 13% more students agreed that they could write a research paper without help. And 12% now disagreed with the statement, having writing evaluated as scary, and 50% more now rated their writing skills as good or very good. I've come to understand through my research that EAP is generally understood to be a text-oriented approach, but I want to say that one of the things that stood out to me is how heavily weighted the focus was towards writing in this first pilot, when in fact, numerous surveys that were taken in Iceland leading up to the pilot found the students complain mostly about the academic English reading load. So without access to the actual curriculum, it's hard to know how reading and writing were integrated, but I did find that now there are 2 reading courses in which students will demonstrate the ability to analyze, summarize, criticize, and then discuss in writing academic texts in various genres. However, what I don't understand is why the 2 writing courses and the 2 reading courses are separated. They seem they would be perfectly set up to be an integrated reading writing course. And right now there's 4 different courses where maybe there could be a more focus, would be my analysis. One interesting argument that came up repeatedly in a number of Nordic scholars' statements is that there's a new linguistic context that needs to be addressed, where there's a high English fluency. I believe this idea relates to the larger picture of how do we support students with high English fluency in general. If, as Arnbjørnsdóttir and Prince claim, the new linguistic context is one in which English is not a foreign language, but rather an additional language taught to address genre-specific situations, well, what they're doing in Iceland appears aligned with Ken Hyland's advocacy of making a virtue of heterogeneity in EAP instruction. He writes that the core university English program at Hong Kong University offers courses deliberately composed of students from a range of faculties and programs, and courses ask students to draw on content material from their common core courses and developing understanding of spoken and written texts. Well, I don't have time to explain more deeply right now. It too is a program designed to bridge the gap between school-based English and the disciplinary studies students encounter in their second year and beyond. And now for my juicy nugget, as Dr. Santos likes to call it. For Arnbjørnsdóttir and Prince, comparing the need to instruct students in academic English at Iceland to the availability of courses supporting L1 English students in their countries suits the scholars' advocacy for changes to Icelandic language policy and the national curriculum. For me, I'm influenced by Hyland's argument that while EAP's pragmatism leaves it open to criticism, EAP can play an important role in assisting all students to unpack textual norms to take a more critical view of discourse in their disciplines. My research finds that a genre approach to EAP may play a particularly important role in, number one, preparing such students for academic reading in the disciplines and preparing them for EMI courses, which expect a high threshold of English proficiency to enter and do not provide English language as support as part of their curricula. These are the 10 EPA courses now offered at the University of Iceland. As a result of my research, I've learned that it's important to also look outside the US when considering strategies for teaching academic English reading and writing skills. When it comes to making a sea change, universities in the US could be compared to a large cruise ship that needs much time and logistical planning to make a turn, while university systems in Iceland and Hong Kong are small, agile ships navigating the same seas. So what I've learned over the course of my research for this capstone is that Iceland's ability to address challenges and affect change in a relatively short period of time has actually inspired my commitment, and I hope yours, in embracing that universal conundrum I mentioned earlier. How do we as composition and TESOL instructors best support our multilingual and L1 English students who require a process of intense academic English support to succeed in their disciplines? Thank you again for your interest in my presentation.